So, welcome to my short video about the electrical upgrade on our Swift Kon-Tiki 784. Over the years, we've owned several horse lorries, and we always had an issue in the horse lorries, especially during the winter, about keeping the batteries from going flat. You have your engine battery and the leisure battery. We were lucky where we used to live because we kept the lorry at home. So I used to be able to plug into the equivalent of electric hookup by our stable block. We used to plug the lorry into the power and be able to charge up the leisure battery. We also had a generator in the horse lorry, but it was a bit of a pain because during the winter, if you left petrol in the generator, it would gel up and the carburetor would stick. And then when you went to use the Jenny in the spring, you used to have to strip the carb down and basically service the generator so that it would be working properly during the year. So had those experiences with generators, so we didn't want to have a generator in the motorhome. But buying this Swift Kon-Tiki 784, it comes with a 100-watt solar panel on the roof. And a lot of the advertising says the solar panel keeps your batteries topped up so they don't go flat or the voltages don't drop. That might be the case in the summer in the UK, but it's certainly not the case in the winter. And it's also not the case if you've got a trickle drain, so something drawing from the batteries when you've got it parked up or in storage. Dealing with the starter battery, first off on the motorhome, what I did notice over the winter with the drop in temperature and also the lack of sun, despite the fact you've got a solar panel, you don't get enough solar even on a 100-watt solar panel, to trickle charge your starter battery. So what you've got to do probably every 3 weeks is go for maybe half an hour to an hour's drive. And what I'd do is I'd go to the storage, take the van out, and take it for a drive up and down the M54 motorway. And that was enough just to keep the starter battery healthy. And keep it from going flat. You also have the issue of your leisure battery, and again, it's a draw on the leisure battery. So again, the trick there is make sure there is nothing switched on or left on, especially when it's in storage. I made a mistake in the first month that we had the motorhome, and I forgot that there is a TV booster for the aerial in one of the cupboards, and that was left on. So even though I'd unplugged the TV, so I knew there was no power going to the TV in a standby mode, this booster was drawing power out of the leisure battery. I also forgot about the Wi-Fi module, because the Wi-Fi module sits on a charger that's drawing from your 12-volt power supply, and that's in the cupboard above the microwave in the motorhome. And I forgot to turn that charger off. So that was, in effect, trickle charging the Wi-Fi module. And that was drawing from the leisure battery. So you've got this bit of draw from the leisure battery. We certainly in October to November, December, we had some temperature drops. And I did notice, because I have the Swift command system switched on so that I could log on remotely and have a look at the state of the batteries. I did notice the voltage dropping in both batteries in the motorhome, and that's why I used to take it out. The van was recently in to Salop Leisure for some work doing on it, And when I got the van back, I was chatting to the guy in the service department, and I said, "Why did they turn the Swift command system off?" And they said they do that as a default when they're doing any servicing or work on anyone's motorhomes or their caravans. When they return them back into storage, they turn the Swift command system off. And basically, they turn all that off so that the command system, again, is not drawing or draining on your batteries, because that command system uses a very small amount of power. But it's enough, if you've left something in storage, to flatten your batteries over time. Um, so, but there's a trade-off here. Do you leave the command system on so that you can actually monitor your batteries remotely? Or do you leave it off and then take the chance that you haven't got a clue what's going on with your batteries until you may get an alert coming from the tracker management company to say their system has sent an alert to them that your batteries have gone flat? Because that can happen. You can set the Swift system so that if it detects the batteries have dropped to, I think it's around about 11.5 volts, say 11.5, 11.6 volts, it'll send you a text message to say an alert's been triggered in the motorhome by the tracking system that your battery's going flat. And of course, you get that. You've then got to go and get the motorhome and take it for a drive or get your batteries charged up. The danger with that, of course, especially if you're reading the manuals, if you're allowing those batteries to drop into 11.5 towards 10 volts, the batteries are being killed. They're damaging the batteries, and that's the last thing you want. So I made a decision that I was going to go and get an upgrade. I wanted more solar, and I wanted a switch from the lead acid batteries that are in the motorhome to lithium. And I got in touch with a company called EcoTree in Nottingham, and I spoke to the director there, Rob, and went through all my solar and battery options with Rob. And it was quite handy because in January they had a sale and they'd reduced the price of a load of their lithium batteries. I did a lot of research on this. I looked at different battery manufacturers, the type of cell technology inside the batteries, and I was looking at another popular brand called Fogstar Drift. However, even though it's very popular, there's been some very bad write-ups online about Fogstar, and it made me a little bit uncomfortable. I also liked EcoTree because they got some really good reviews. And for those of you who follow other people's YouTube channels, a lot of van lifers and YouTubers use EcoTree. They come highly recommended. And certainly in Swift motorhomes, I wanted someone who knew what they were doing about doing the upgrade. I wasn't going to do it myself, even though I'm fairly competent with electrics, have been all my life, and also technology, because that was my trade as a chief technologist, and I was a systems engineer. When you're retired, if you've got the money, let's just pay someone else to do this professionally and properly and stop messing around. So in speaking to Rob at EcoTree, they've partnered up with a number of installers around the country, and fortunately enough, there's a company called BlueFix Energy down in Hereford, which is literally just down the A49 from where I live, about an hour, or just over an hour's drive down the A49 from us. And they're one of the top Victron and EcoTree installers in the UK. So I reached out through Rob at EcoTree to BlueFix, and I spoke to one of the directors of BlueFix, that's Luke. And I was chatting to Luke about the art of the possible for our motorhome. I discussed this with Robert EcoTree. And before we talk about the lithium, it was how much solar can I get on the roof of my Swift 784? This is the problem that you actually have, because if you're going to do a solar upgrade, I mean, I've got solar on my house. You want to pack as many panels as you can onto your roof of your house or your roof of your motorhome, because there's not a lot of cost difference between getting 1 or 2 panels as getting 3 or 4 panels. The time and the labour, the installation, there's not a lot of difference there. The complexity of the 784 on a motorhome is there sufficient space on that motorhome roof to get these standardised panels, to get them fitted in there so you've got no shading and slotting them between roof vents, etc., and also not on the slope of the van. The 784 doesn't have a lot of space, and it's got some roof vents in some really awkward positions, which effectively stop you putting solar up there. I took some photographs, I put some drawings on to work out what I thought would go up there, and I sent that to EcoTree. I let BlueFix take a look at that. Luke at BlueFix suggested I come down and have a chat with them and drive down in the van for them to take a look, and that's what I actually did. Because funnily enough, we agreed a quote with a panelling based on what I thought would get on the roof. But when I actually took it down there, one of Luke's main engineers, Natalie, I mean, she got up on the roof of the van, got the ladder up, stood up there, had a look round, and it all changed. And it was great, actually, because what I thought I could only get just over 300 watts of solar on my roof. But when she was up there, she worked out we could get smaller 140. Was it the 140? Oh no, the 160. The 160 watt panels, she worked out we could get these panels in such a combination. So in effect, I could get 560 watt of solar on the roof. That actually made giving up the Truma 100 watt solar panel that Swift had already put up there. And to be fair, those solar panels, the Truma ones, they're rebadged cheap Chinese stuff. It's wafer thin. Everything you read about them online says they only last a couple of years, and they're absolutely rubbish. They're not worth having up there. So we made a decision when I was down with BlueFix, was that Truma solar panel was stuck on the roof, cover it, get a decent Victron panel over the top of it, and let's use that space. So give up the 100 watt that was on there so that I have all new Victron panels on the roof. In this video, you can see that. You'll see the picture of the panels and where they were all placed. We were also able to go right to the edges and slightly to the back, which is actually, it was a real bonus getting BlueFix to do this, because something else that BlueFix do that other companies tend not to do, they make their own aluminium mounting brackets for to bolt the panels on. And I know BlueFix Energy, if you go to their YouTube site, you'll actually see how they mount solar panels, which is a little bit different to most others. So they don't use these standard kits with plastic mounts. They're all aluminium bars that are custom made for the panels, for your roof, and they are stuck. the aluminium bars are stuck on your roof, and the panels are bolted to these, which it's really good the way they fit those on. So that's the solar. So we were getting 560 watt solar on the roof. The battery, I got a really good deal on the lithium battery. Now the problem with putting the battery into the van was, where was it going to go in the garage? The Swift Kon-Tiki 784 has a battery cabinet which is tucked away, and they have one lead acid battery in there. You can fit two lead acid or two smaller batteries in there, but I wanted the 320 amp hour EcoTree lithium battery, which is a bit of a beast in size, and it was, could it go in that compartment or not? So I just said to BlueFix, if it's got to go in the garage, just leave it in the garage. I'll lose that bit of space. If you can get it in the battery compartment so it's tucked away, that's a bonus. Above the battery compartment in the 784's garage, there's a little shelf, and I just used to leave tools on there. And I said, well, also, if you can use that shelf for any of the installation, I'll give the shelf up. And then you've got all the componentry. Where were they going to put the componentry? And they said they'll make a board and they'll fit that componentry onto the back wall. I mean, the garage on the 784 Kon-Tiki is absolutely huge. So there was plenty of room for them to do whatever they've got to do, so that I left them to it. And you'll see from the pictures coming up the really neat installation that BlueFix Energy did inside the Kon-Tiki. So what I actually ordered, because we want to be able to go off grid for 5 or 6 days. So we want power for off grid, because my wife, she goes to horse shows. Horse shows, you don't have electric hookups. Also, we might want to travel around. We don't want to rely on electric hookups. So there are a few things that we need to plug in. I want power for a portable oxygen concentrator if I need that for my health. I have to use a CPAP overnight, so I need to be able to power a CPAP. That's for breathing. We've now got a small electric mobility scooter, and we want to be able to charge that, take that mobility scooter away with us and charge that. And then, of course, you've got your standard, you've got your kettles, your hair dryers, things like that, normal appliances. So all told, the 320 amp hour battery met our requirements. Having the 320 amp hour, if we're not getting enough solar, I want to be able to drive and charge that up quickly. So we decided we were going to put 2 DC to DC chargers in there to come off the alternator, because you've got to put, they call them B2B or DC to DC, and that enables you to charge lithium batteries off the smart alternator on the Fiat Ducato engine. So rather than putting 1 in, we put 2 in. Again, not a lot of price difference, just putting 2 of those in. We increased the size of the MPPT controller for the solar panels because the 560 watt. There was a Truma 12 MPPT controller in there, which is, again, it's a waste of space. That got taken out of the Swift. Those Truma MPPT controllers are actually just white label or relabeled Truma. They're cheap 60 quid MPPTs that you can buy on eBay, or if you go on AliExpress, you can probably get them for 10 quid. So got rid of that. Got a proper Victron controller in there for the solar panels. To power all these devices in the motorhome, we wanted a 3000 watt inverter. So we went with the Multi Plus 2. charger cum inverter, which will charge the batteries. Now, and the other thing with that multi-plus is, and this was one of the requirements, we didn't want to have to start flicking switches to turn stuff on and off when you're plugging up to what they call shore power or electric hookups or not. We wanted it totally automated, and that's what the multi-plus 2 does for us. So literally, the van, if we go on a campsite and there's an electric hookup, we plug into the electric hookup. It'll switch modes so it knows you're on electric hookup. If we're not on electric hookup, it knows we're not on electric hookup. We don't have to turn switches or put plugs in and out. It's totally automated, and we do that for simplicity. Also, there is a control radar called a Servo GX, and it has a touchscreen 70 display which has been fitted inside the motorhome. That's brilliant. The display on that's better than the Swift display, but it actually works with the Swift. So I can see the Swift control panel display and I can look at the Servo display. The great thing with the Servo is it connects via the internet, and I can actually now remotely monitor the van from an app on my mobile phone. So, I mean, I can configure the power, I can look at it and what's doing with the solar, charging, etc. via an app on the phone. And I'll just introduce now some other videos that I did around this, so you can actually have a look at this BlueFix installation. This is my Kon-Tiki 784, and that was the garage. Now, the old battery system, Swift put the leisure batteries in a compartment in here. So, sort of, the leisure battery was in there. There was one battery in there, but there was room for two, and they were on a small plinth slid inside of there. They weren't even fixed down. I mean, the fixings that were done by Swift were pretty poor in there. This is the battery that was taken out. This is the USA 12 volt 100 amp hour lead acid battery that was sitting inside that compartment here. Now, what BlueFix have managed to do as part of this installation, they've managed to fit my 320, I've got a 320 amp hour EcoTree lithium battery in here, and they've made a platform for this, and the battery is actually fitted into here so it doesn't move about. They cut a groove to slot the battery into this wood so this battery can't move, and of course it's strapped down. See, it's all strapped down in there. You can probably see this is how it's all been fitted, and the battery lengthwise probably comes to about here, but it's really neat the way they've managed to fit the battery in there. I was expecting them to have a problem, and then I would have lost some of this space on the floor here, and the battery would have been stuck out here. But, I mean, that tucks away the battery quite neatly in there. And then this is what's really amazing about this installation, is the way they've managed to build the board and put all the cabling all nice and neat on here. So, and they've managed to fit the multi-plus 2 inverter charger system. Has managed to tuck on this shelf in here, which I was using. Basically, I was using this for just my odd tools and whatever. So rather than that being stuck out over here anywhere, they've managed to tuck it in here. And then all the components of the system you can see here. So you can see I've got an Orion Smart, well, two of them. We've got two DC to DC chargers, 30 amp hour, and that's because of the size of that battery. We wanted to be able to charge it up quick off the alternator on the vehicle. So we've got two DC to DC chargers. Because I've now got 560 watts of power on my roof, we've upgraded the MPPT controller, and the MPPT controller is now 150. You've got here, there's the isolating switch for the solar on the roof, this white switch here, double pole. So flick that and that completely isolates the solar coming off the roof. There's the smart shunt for the battery, so we can get a measurement of the battery capacity. That's where most of the fuses are. This is the Lynx distribution board that sits neatly in here. We've got, he called it an OSS switch, which is an oh shit moment, we called it. That isolates the whole system. Turn that switch, the whole thing is off and isolated. And then the heart of the management of the system, which is the Serbo GX controller. And that's what everything plugs into, and that's how we perform management, and that links to a Touch 70 screen. And we've got a Touch 70 screen which sits inside the motorhome. And if we go in the motorhome, and again, this is such a tidy installation that's been done here. There we go. So if we look up here, there's the original Swift controller. Up here, there's the Truma heating controller, but then very neatly tucked here is the Touch 70 controller. So you can see what's going on. So we can see at the moment, I mean, I'm virtually in the shade here around the side of the house, but you can see these solar panels. There's 15 watts coming in off the solar panels. We're using, because I've got a few lights on, I'm using some, well, 46, 49 watts on the DC system. Battery, it's at 100%. And you can see the power on the battery. No alerts. You can flick here. This is the useful screen. So you can see all the componentry working together. I've got it plugged into the mains in the house, so that's the shore power. See what we're dripping in here off the shore power. There's nothing on AC loads. I've got nothing plugged in there in the inverter. You can see what's coming in off the solar panels. What we're using on DC power. As I said, I've got a couple of lights on. And these are the screens for controlling. AC mode, I've currently switched it on, so and I've set the current limit to 10 amp. When you're on a hookup, this is the one that you can vary this depending on what you're doing on a campsite. So if the campsite is a 16 amp or a 10 amp or a 6 amp, you can vary on here. Inverters, you can set to charger only, inverter only. You can turn AC mode off, so when this is going to go in storage and we're going to be using nothing, that'll be set to off. Currently I've got it set to on. I mean, that with it set to on, that's pretty cool, because it actually means that all the power sockets in the van, if we unplug from shore, so currently they're all the 240 volt sockets are working off the shore, but if we unplug
the shore, then those sockets will automatically switch to the inverter, and we've got a 3 kilowatt inverter in here in the Multi-Plus 2, and that'll drive the 240 volt sockets, of course, while I've still got power in the battery. So yeah, really happy with this installation, and I'll just show you how neat and tidy this is in here. I mean, they've threaded all the cabling through behind the paneling. It's just so neat the way this has been done for us. This is worthy. I mean, what used to sit in here was the old Truma MPPT used to be sat in there. No need for that anymore, it's gone. But yep, really happy.